Living in Sunnyside Estates wasn't my top pick, but its proximity to work and the scenic walking trails were perfect for Maverick, my service dog. Maverick, a stunning golden retriever, assists me in managing PTSD episode from my time serving overseas. He's impeccably trained, always wearing his service vest in public and obeying commands flawlessly. I know the Americans with Disabilities Act inside out. It's essential when you depend on a service animal. But I never thought I'd have to quote federal law to my HOA president. When I first met Karen Whitfield, she was clutching a clipboard, her face fixed in a permanent frown. Introducing herself as the HOA president, her tone implied I should be awestruck. "I don't recall approving a dog in this neighborhood," she said, glaring at Maverick, who sat calmly by my side. I courteously clarified that Maverick was a service dog, not a pet, and thus exempt from pet restrictions under federal law. She scoffed, mumbled about people exploiting loopholes, and stormed off. That should have been my first red flag. Over the next few weeks, I received 3 notices for supposed violations. My lawn was a 1/4 inch too long, my mailbox was an incorrect shade of black, and my trash can linger curbside for 45 minutes post-pickup. Each notice bore Karen's flamboyant signature, paired with a smiley face that felt more menacing than cheerful. Wanting to avoid conflict, I complied, but I sensed these trivial infractions were just the start. Then came the HOA meeting where Karen proposed a rule requiring all animals, including service dogs, to register with the board and wear HOA-approved tags. When I pointed out that this violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, she interrupted, declaring that federal laws don't trump community standards. Several neighbors shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke up. After the meeting, Karen leaned in and hissed, "If you want to play tough, I can play tougher." Her breath reeked of coffee and menace. The following weekend, I was relaxing on my porch with Maverick resting at my feet, engrossed in newspaper. A shadow loomed over my yard. Karen, in her trademark khaki shorts and polo, gripping a spray bottle. "Your dog's breaking the new pet rule by lacking HOA identification," she announced loudly, ensuring neighbors overheard. I calmly reiterated that Maverick was a service dog, protected by federal law, and the rule wasn't even active yet. Her face flushed a furious red. "I'm sick of you military types acting above the rules," she snapped, stepping closer. Before I could react, she sprayed Maverick in the face with liquid from her bottle. He yelped, pawing at his eyes in distress. I leapt up, shielding Maverick, and demanded to know what was in the bottle. "Just a vinegar-water mix," Karen smirked. "It won't harm him, but maybe he'll learn to respect authority." Furious but composed from years of military discipline, I took Maverick inside, flushed his eyes thoroughly, and ensured he was okay. The vinegar had irritated his eyes, but fortunately, there was no permanent damage. Once Maverick was settled, I dialed 911. "What's your emergency?" the dispatcher asked. I reported the assault on my service dog, emphasizing that interfering with a service animal is a federal offense. The dispatcher took my details and promised officers would arrive soon. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers knocked at my door. I explained the incident, showed Maverick's service dog certification and training records, and pointed out Karen's house across the street. One officer stayed to take my statement while the other approached Karen. From my window, I saw her gesticulating wildly, her face twisted in outrage. The officer appeared unmoved by her theatrics. When they returned, they confirmed Karen admitted to spraying Maverick, but claimed she was upholding community standards. They informed her that interfering with a service animal violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, carrying hefty fines and potential jail time, and her actions also constituted animal cruelty under state law. They were arresting her and asked if I wanted to press charges. Without hesitation, I said yes. Karen was led to the police car in handcuffs, shouting about having me evicted and turning the neighborhood against me. Neighbors gathered outside, and one whispered, "She's finally crossed the line." Another neighbor approached later, apologizing for staying silent at the meeting. "We've all been scared of her for too long," she admitted, glancing at Maverick, who had bounced back to his calm, attentive self. The legal process moved swiftly. Karen faced charges of interfering with a service animal animal cruelty, and harassment. At her initial court appearance, she showed up in designer attire with a high-priced lawyer who grew visibly uneasy as evidence piled up. The judge was stern, emphasizing that community rules never override federal disability laws. While awaiting trial, an emergency HOA meeting was called. I attended with Maverick, and nearly every homeowner showed up. The vice president proposed a no-confidence vote in Karen's leadership, citing her reckless actions that jeopardized the community legally. The vote was unanimous. Karen was ousted from the board immediately. Someone had even removed her name tag from the board. Karen's criminal case ended with her pleading guilty to a lesser charge to avoid extended jail time. The judge sentenced her to 30 days in county jail, a $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service at an animal shelter, and mandatory disability rights education. As the sentence was read, Karen's expressions cycled through shock, anger, and finally acceptance of her consequences. "I was just enforcing the rules," she protested faintly as the bailiff approached. The judge leaned forward and said, "The greatest rule, Ms. Whitfield, is respecting the law of the land, which protects service animals and those who rely on them." As Karen was escorted away to begin her sentence, our eyes met briefly in the courtroom. The arrogance and superiority that once defined her were gone, replaced by the humbled expression of someone who'd met a rule she couldn't manipulate. She mouthed something like, "This isn't over," but we both knew it was. Maverick sat beside me, poised and professional, the epitome of a service dog. I scratched behind his ears, and he leaned into my hand, a quiet gesture of our bond, stronger for surviving this unexpected ordeal.